Hey guys, welcome to Red's Projects. Today, working on the Ute once again. So today I'm going to be adding a second fuel pump in preparation for running E85 and everything. So current setup is a single -10 from the tank into this 044 style knockoff pump into a -6 line into the factory lines. And I mean, that's been working all right. I made like 380 kilowatt, 500 horsepower with this without any issues, but I'm going to run two of these 044s. So I'm going to be running two of the 044s now, and I've got a much nicer setup with bigger lines and everything. So what I'll do, I'll take this setup out, and I'll start laying things out, and I'll show you. It'll be easier to show you everything when it's going together. All right, I removed the old pump and the old setup. This is what the new setup's going to look like. That's my old pump, so I got two of these 044 pumps, two 100 micron pre-filters, one 10 micron post filter. I'm going to have two -10 lines for each pump setup, and for the meantime I'm going to go from -6 to this, but the plan is, when I can afford it, to go -10 from here to the front of the car using a hard line, and also have a flex fuel sensor here somewhere, and then it'll be -10 all the way to the rails, which will be awesome. But I'm going to start making up these back lines, which are going to be 200 series PTFE, so I can put any fuel I want through it basically. Once I get them sorted, I will mount this and start doing things permanently. Alright, I've got the bracket mounted. See, that guy's mounted. I made one line just to work out where it's got to be. So what I'll do, I'll set up the tripod. We'll get a bit of a time lapse of this being assembled. Then I'll make that last hose, and then we're pretty much done. Alright, we're pretty much done here. I made the other line back here. I reckon that turned out pretty neat. Everything's all nice and tight. I'm just about to pump some fuel through to flush it out. So I've got this line going up into a jerry can. So I'm going to cycle this pump first, pump a little bit of fuel through it, get any crap out of that side of it, then swap the wires over onto this one and leave it on this one for now. I'll be wiring up the second pump later on. I've got some more things I'm going to do to it, which I might do this episode. I'll see how we go for time, but I'll quickly key on and we'll see if this pump works. Alright, I've got a little piece connecting the filter to the factory line. So we'll just turn the pump back on, build some pressure, make sure there's no leaks. I've got the return line going into the jerry can as well, just in case, but should all be clean. Alright, I'm pretty much done here. Really liked how it turned out. Now obviously, like I said before, this -6 line is just temporary, and obviously the factory line is temporary. It's going to be a -10 line from here to the rail. So it's probably going to be a braided line to a hard alloy line to the front, then another soft braided line to the rail. And as well as that, I've got to put a flex fuel sensor in. So got one of these guys, which is like a -10 in and out, and it flows through the flex fuel sensor and bypasses it. So it's supposedly meant to flow just as much as a -10 line. So I got to find a nice spot to put that around here somewhere. And obviously I got to get a flex fuel sensor as well. I haven't bought one of those yet. Alright, so because the fuel pump install went so smoothly, I'm going to show you some of the new bits I'm going to be fitting to the car very shortly. Okay, so I've got two things I'm going to show you in those boxes. But before we get to that, let's have a quick look at this fuel system again. I've decided I want to mount the flex fuel sensor straight onto here. The same way I've attached the filter to the Y. Just use a double flare onto the 2AN fittings. So going to mount the flex fuel sensor right here, and then probably put a mount off the floor, because all this weight is hanging off the front of these fuel pumps. So I'll put a rubber mount or something down here to take some weight here and take the stress off that. Okay, so first thing I look at is in this white box, we've got a Holley I/O module, input/output module. Alright, had to move into the car. There's a big thunderstorm out there and it's very loud in the shed, so you should be able to hear me now. That thing I opened up is a Holley I/O module. It basically gives you 8 more inputs, 8 more outputs, and that's very useful for a turbo car or a car you want to collect a lot of data on. For something like this, inputs you run out pretty quickly. Like you have like trans brake, staging or bump, dome pressure, and like scramble. So 4 important things for a drag car, and you've used up all your inputs. So you've got no more spots left for data for coolant pressure, back pressure, compressor outlet temperature, pressure. Like there's a bunch of extra data things you can add to the car, but you only got 4 inputs, so you're stuck. So with this CAN I/O module, you've got 8 extra inputs. You've got the freedom to put a bunch of extra sensors you wouldn't normally put on. And one of the things I'm most excited to fit is a fuel gauge, because I've never had a fuel gauge in this car ever. So I'm going to be one of the first things I'll wire into it. I've already got a fuel sender in the cell that came with the cell. So that'll be one of the first things I do. And then I'll be wiring in flex fuel, and I want to add a bunch of temperature and pressure sensors just to help collect data. And yeah, outputs as well. I've got my fans on a switch at the moment, but I'd like to have them as an output and extra fuel pump as an output. And there's a bunch of other things I want to set up as outputs, so I don't physically have to have switches for it. So very excited to fit this. I'm probably going to physically fit it today and then slowly wire it in. As much as I love wiring, it is a pain sometimes, and I like to do it properly, so I will physically mount something, then work out what I need to go buy, what relays and stuff. So I'll work all that out later, but let's go open up that second box. All right, in the second box we have something I really need. An intercooler. So let me set up the tripod and I'll show you what I'm going to do. All right, so this big water tower cooler I want to mount back here somewhere, probably about there. I want to rotate the compressor housing and have a straight pipe from there to here, and then from there it's just a 90 and maybe a 45 to get it through the firewall. But this should help bring the inlet temps down, because we're seeing some really hot intake air temps, so this is definitely well needed. I'm going to mount a reservoir probably in front of the fuel cell or over next to the fuel pumps, and just have a big reservoir that I can throw a bunch of ice in and really get some nice cold water flowing through this thing. And yeah, it should pick up a bit of power doing that. We've seen how hot the inlet temps we're getting on the dyno, so this should definitely help out. Alright, that just about wraps it up for this episode. Got fuel pump and the filters fitted, got a CAN IO module to fit, I've got a flex fuel sensor to fit, and I've got an intercooler to fit. So those first three things, CAN, flex, and fuel pumps, that's going to allow me to run E85, and obviously the intercooler is going to reduce my inlet temps from the temperature of the sun to something more reasonable. So very excited to get it back on the dyno with E85 and an intercooler. It should make a lot more power. So that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you later.